Two of the most despised characters in all of MOBA history. If we were to put these two against each other, who would win in a fight, Techies or Teemo? We're going to put these guys through two different tests, one the battle of the lore and one the battle of the in-game abilities. First step is going to be the battle of the in-game abilities. If you need a refresher on any of the hero's abilities, we'll go through them real quick. If not, go to the timestamp on the video now to start the battle. Teemo has a passive where if he stands still for a little bit, he'll turn invisible, and then when he breaks invisibility, he'll gain a little bit of an attack speed boost. Teemo's first ability is a point-and-click projectile, which will blind an enemy and deal a moderate amount of damage. Teemo's W has two facets to it. The first one is a passive that gives him increased movement speed when he's not in combat, and then he can activate it to gain increased movement speed at all times. Teemo's third ability is a passive that applies to all of his auto attacks that apply a DOT on you. Teemo's ultimate is his mushroom mines. They're mines that he can place on the map that are invisible to enemies, and when they trigger them, they'll explode and imply a massive DOT. Dota is a little different than League. At the start of the game, you're allowed to pick a facet, which is essentially a passive that changes the way your hero plays. The one we're going to go with is Squeeze Scope, where Techies gains attack range and attack projectile speed for each point of attack speed, because I feel like that's just the most similar towards Teemo's passive that we have right now, and it'll be more equal fight. Ability is a bomb that he lobs into the air. If it lands near a hero, it'll attach to them, slow them down, and then explode. If there's no hero around, it'll simply stick towards the ground and then explode after a short delay. Techies' W is an ability that when he activates it, anybody that hits him gets disarmed. He can then also recast the ability to disarm everybody in a small AoE. Techies' third ability allows him to launch himself forward into enemies and explode on impact, dealing damage to himself and the enemies and stunning the enemies. Techies' mine is similar to Teemo in the fact that he can place it on the ground and it's invisible to enemies. However, his mine explodes instantly, dealing all the damage up front, and additionally it lowers the magic resistance of the enemies hit by it. I think this fight can just be boiled down to two words that describes the existence of both characters. Fucking annoying. Both characters having access to blinds means that auto attacks aren't going to be efficient at all in this fight and be quite worthless really. I think Techies is going to have a direct advantage in this matchup because Teemo is going to have less effective skills. Using his W isn't going to be as reliable because he's either going to be slowed or engaged in the fight, so he's not going to be able to kite as much as possible, and then his E won't be able to be used because he's going to be blinded for half of the match. This means that Teemo only really has one effective skill, being his Q, which can blind and deal damage towards Techies, but it's not going to be enough in the matchup, I believe. Techies just has that extra utility because he isn't relying on his auto attacks. While he interweaves his Qs and his Es in, it's going to deal so much more damage, and then the ultimates from both of them, while useful in this fight, I feel like the DOT aspect of Teemo is very lessened because he doesn't have access to his passive's DOT on top of that. And then also, on the flip side, Techies can use his ultimate, if it ever lands, to reduce the magic resistance of Teemo, which then means his Qs and his Es are much more effective. Now, with all that being said, I think that we can effectively rule Techies as the winner in the battle of the in-game abilities. But don't click away just yet, League of Legends fans. We still have the battle of the in-game lore coming up right now. I'm going to give you a little tidbit of each person's lore. If you want to skip straight to the lore battle, go to the time on the video right now. Techies is actually a hero made up of 3 individuals, Squeeze, Squeal, and Spoon. Techies Demolitionist is a demolitionist team based out of Dredger's Bite, and the local population has given them the nickname Dredger's Blight. They were the annoying neighbors, always causing loud explosions and loud noises in the middle of the night, and everybody hated them, but all they wanted to do was test how could they make a bigger and bigger explosion. Eventually they planted mines all underneath the city, and with their one goal to create a remote detonation. They went outside the town and buried themselves in a ditch, clicking the remote detonator button, and nothing happened. They clicked it again and again and still nothing, until moments later they looked out of their ditch and just saw a great ball of fire. It had completely destroyed the town and there was nothing remaining. Squee turned towards Squeen. "How could we make a bigger one?" he said. Teemo has been a Bandle scout for as long as he can remember, hopping through portals all across Runeterra in order to find people in need, befriend a new creature, or even to document strange new species of mushrooms. His actions inspired so many other Yordles to join the Bandle Scouts that he eventually became a leader of the Scouts themselves. The Bandle Scouts became such a well-known, renowned, and respected group all across Runeterra that nobody would ever turn them away in their hour of need. Teemo is incredibly dedicated towards his job and will do nothing to do what is good for the world. Whether it's going into war camps and rescuing war dogs or war basilisks, or going and making cookies for the local orphanage. He is one of the best people out there to uphold the Scouts' honor. Now, let's get into the battle of the lore against these two. I think straight up, Teemo has a more active role into this warlike atmosphere, this fighting atmosphere, that he is going to have a direct advantage over Techies, who simply just want to be in their workshop all day. While Techies does have the advantage of being 3 people in this group, I don't think that it's going to be enough to overcome the experience that Teemo would have. If Teemo and his Bandle scouts ever got a report of the nuisance of Techies, going around just destroying towns, he would see them as an adversary, not just intellects trying to discover something new. He would see them as the enemy and they would need to be taken out any way possible. I imagine this wouldn't even really be a fight. It would be like the scene out of Predator, where the Predator's invisible in the jungle and just stalking his prey. As Spleen would be out there laying the bombs, and Squee would be out there laying down the wires connecting the bombs, he would slowly stalk one until they were out of range of each other, and simply spit out his poison darts at one and then the other, just either knocking them out or killing them outright if he felt like it. Spoon, wondering where his companions would be, would wander back into the forest looking for them, and would also disappear alongside them, suffering a similar fate. And that would make Teemo the clear winner of the Battle of the Lore. Now that gives us a 1-1 tie, Teemo winning the Battle of the Lore, and Techies winning the Battle of the in-game abilities. What do you guys think down in the comments below? Did I mess up anything or miss anything? Let me know. These videos take a while to make, so don't forget to subscribe so that I can know that you guys want more, and I'm hopefully trying to get monetization once I hit 1,000 subs, so help me out and I'll keep making more of these videos where you guys can tell me that I'm wrong.